We're doing a digital SAT English practice test. This is a medium level test on craft and structure. Let's take a look. Micheline Pesson-Tooby, a historian and citizen of the Choctaw Nation, has identified a dilemma inherent to research on the status of women in her tribe during the 1600s and 1700s. The primary sources from that era, travel narratives and other accounts by male European colonizers, underestimate the degree of power conferred on Choctaw women by their traditional roles in political, civic, and ceremonial life. Pesson-Tooby argues that the Choctaw oral tradition and findings from archaeological sites in the tribe's homeland supplement the written record by providing crucial insights into these roles. Let me grab something here. This right here is probably a keyword, supplement, but let's look at the choices here. It details the shortcomings of certain historical sources, then argues they should be ignored. No. It describes a problem that arises in research, then sketches a historian's approach to addressing it. I mean, that sounds pretty good. It lists the advantages of a particular research method, and then historians, wait, what? That's gone. Historians' criticism of that method? No, I didn't see any historians' criticism of that method. It characterizes a particular topic as especially challenging to research and then suggests a related topic. No, it does not suggest a related topic. So, that gives us B. Initially met with skepticism by her peers in the 1970s, pioneering astronomer Vera Rubin blank the scientific consensus on the composition of galaxies through her observations of galactic rotation rates, which implied the presence of large amounts of dark matter not accounted for in prevailing theories. Her groundbreaking findings have since become widely accepted, which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase. Okay, so it's got to be something like let's see, astronomer Vera Rubin, that she, upset the scientific consensus, or she contradicted the scientific consensus. I don't know, something to that effect. Corroborated, no. Confounded, yeah, that's not bad. It's better than the other. Disseminated, that doesn't make sense. Ameliorated doesn't make sense. So let's go confounded. All right, two texts. Because literacy in Nahuatl script, the writing system of the Aztec Empire, was lost after Spain invaded central Mexico in the 1500s, it's unclear exactly how meaning was encoded in the script's symbols. Although many scholars had assumed that the symbols signified entire words, the linguist Alfonso Lacedena theorized in 2008 that they signified units of language smaller than words, individual syllables. All right, text 2. The growing consensus among scholars of Nahuatl script is that many of its symbols could signify either words or syllables, depending on syntax and content at any given site within a text. For example, the symbol signifying the word whipple, blouse, in some contexts could signify the syllable pill, in others, as in the name plays Xippiltepec. Thus, for the Aztecs, reading required a determination of how such symbols functioned each time they appeared in a text. Based on the texts, how would the author of text 2 most likely characterize Lacedena's theory as described in text 1? A. Praising the theory for recognizing that the symbols could represent entire words. Well, no, actually, it was... Well, text 1 said no, they could be syllables, not entire way. By arguing that the theory is overly influenced by the work of earlier scholars, that's really not mentioned at all. By approving of the theory's emphasis on how the script changed over time, I don't see that as being an emphasis. By cautioning that the theory overlooks certain important aspects, text 1 says syllables, but text 2 says syllables or words, so I think we got to go D. Osage Nation citizen Randy Tinker Smith produced and directed the ballet Wajaji, which vividly chronicles Osage history and culture. Telling Osage stories through ballet is blank choice because two of the foremost ballet dancers of the 20th century were Osage sisters, Maria and Marjorie Tallchief. Which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase? So we need something in there to say that it is an appropriate choice or a fitting choice. Let's see. Or a suitable choice, I think, is the best out of the options that we have there. Polar bears sustain themselves primarily by hunting seals on the Arctic Sea ice, but rising ocean temperatures are causing the ice to diminish, raising concerns about polar bear population declines as these large predators' seal hunting habitats continue to shrink. A 2020 study examining polar bear populations across the Arctic concluded that populations affected by sea ice loss are at great risk of extinction by the end of the 21st century. Text 2, monitoring carried out by researchers from the Norwegian Polar Institute shows that the polar bear population on the Arctic archipelago of Svalbard remains stable and well-nourished despite rapidly declining sea ice in recent years. The researchers attribute this population's resilience in part to a shift in feeding strategies. In addition to hunting seals, the Svalbard polar bears have begun relying on a diet of reindeer meat and birds' eggs. Based on the texts, how would the researchers in text 2 most likely respond to the conclusion presented in the underlined portion of text 1, which is that the polar bears are going to be extinct? A, suggesting it's likely incorrect about the rates at which sea ice is melting. No, that's not what it's about. Arguing that it fails to account for polar bears' reliance on a single strategy. No. Actually, text 1 does suggest that polar bears rely on a single strategy. C, by noting that it neglects the possibility of some polar bear populations adapting to changes in their environment. Yes, that sounds good. D, asserting it overlooks polar bear populations that have not yet been affected. No, that's not it. C looks like the best choice. Many archaeologists assume that large-scale engineering projects in ancient societies required an elite class to plan and direct the necessary labor. However, recent discoveries, such as the excavation of an ancient canal near the Gulf Coast of Alabama, have complicated this picture. Using radiocarbon dating, a team of researchers concluded that the 1.39 kilometer long canal was most likely constructed between 576 and 650 CE by an indigenous society that was relatively free of social classes. Which choice best describes the overall structure of the text? Okay, well, the overall structure of the text is to present a widely held theory and then to present evidence that I don't want to say refutes the theory, but presents an alternative viewpoint. So let's see what we have here. It presents contradictory conclusions drawn by archaeologists. No. It describes a common view among archaeologists, then discusses a recent finding that challenges that view. Yes, that is such a good answer that I don't even want to read the rest of them. So it's B. Many studies in psychology have shown that people seek out information even when they know in advance that they have no immediate use for it and that they won't directly benefit from it. Such findings support the consensus view among researchers of curiosity, namely that curiosity is not instrumental but instead represents a drive to acquire information for its own sake. Okay, text 2. While acknowledging that acquiring information is a powerful motivator, I think that is going to be important. Rachit Dubey and colleagues ran an experiment to test whether emphasizing the usefulness of scientific information could increase curiosity about it. They found that when research involving rats and fruit flies was presented as having medical applications for humans, participants expressed greater interest in learning about it than when the research was not presented as useful. Based on the texts, how would Dubey and colleagues in text 2 most likely respond to the consensus view in text 1? Well, they're probably going to say that yes, curiosity, people will learn things for the sake of learning them, even though they're not, they don't need the information, they're not benefiting from the information, but they can be more curious about the information if there is some application. So let's see what we have here. By pointing out, it's challenging to determine when information seeking serves no goal. No. B, suggesting that curiosity may not be exclusively motivated by the desire to merely acquire information. That sounds pretty good. By conceding that, no. D, by disputing the idea that curiosity can help explain. No, again, they've already acknowledged that acquiring information is a powerful motivator, so I think we've got to go with B. In his 1971 treatise, A Theory of Justice, political philosopher John Rawls that's a very famous work, by the way, Theory of Justice. John Rawls proposes a thought experiment called the Veil of Ignorance, in which individuals must design a society without knowing what their own position or social status would be within it. This construct aims to blank personal biases and encourage the creation of a just social order by compelling participants to consider the welfare of all possible societal positions, which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase. Yeah, so, I mean, if you get into political philosophy, you'll read that, Theory of Justice. There's another book called Anarchy, State, and Utopia by Robert Nozick that, among other things, kind of picks apart a theory of justice. But I don't know, I just mentioned that in passing. But this construct aims to, we need a word for something like eliminate. We're trying to eliminate personal biases because we're designing a society and we don't know what are we going to be, rich, poor, somewhere in the middle. So it is, something like eliminate. Entitle, substantiate, augment, nullify. Okay, so that's what we want right there. Nullify personal biases. Okay. Archaeological excavation of Market Street, Chinatown, a 19th century Chinese-American community in San Jose, California, provided the first evidence that Asian food products were imported to the United States in the 1800s. Bones from a freshwater fish species native to Southeast Asia. Jinshan Zhuang, Hong Kong-based import-export firms, likely coordinated the fish's transport from Chinese-operated fisheries in Vietnam and Malaysia to North American markets. This route reveals the often overlooked multinational dimensions of the trade networks linking Chinese diaspora communities. Diaspora meaning a dispersal of people from their homeland. What choice best describes the function of the underlined sentence in the text as a whole? Okay, what do we got here? Provides information that helps support a claim about a discovery's significance presented in the following sentence. Yeah, I would say it does that. Explains why efforts to determine the country of origin are inconclusive. No. Outlines a hypothesis that additional evidence cast doubt. No. Traces the steps that were taken to locate. Boy, these answers are terrible. No, the only answer that makes sense is A. All right, last question, 10 of 10. Text 1, in a study of insect behavior, Samadhi, Galpage, and colleagues presented bumblebees with small wooden balls and observed many of the bees clinging to, rolling, and dragging the object. The researchers provided no external rewards, such as food, to encourage these interactions. The bees simply appeared to be playing for no other reason than because they were having fun. It's kind of interesting. Text 2. Insects do not have cortexes or other brain areas associated with emotions in humans. Still, Galpage and her team have shown that bumblebees may engage in play, possibly experiencing some kind of positive emotional state. Other studies have suggested that bees experience negative emotional states, for example, stress, but as Galpage and her team have acknowledged, emotions in insects, if they do exist, are likely very rudimentary. Based on the text, how would the author of text 2 most likely respond to the underlined portion of text 1, which says that the bees were playing because they were having fun? And, I mean, text 2 would respond that, yeah, maybe, but, in a very rudimentary sort of way, not the way humans do, and so don't make too much of it. All right, objecting that the bees were actually experiencing negative feelings. No. By pointing out that even humans sometimes struggle. No. There's nothing about humans. By arguing that some insects other than bumblebees were... No, there's nothing in here about anything other than bumblebees. D, by noting that if the bees were truly playing, any positive feelings they may have experienced were probably quite basic. Yes. I think everybody is in agreement on that. And that is it. That is medium digital SAT reading on craft and structure. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and see you next time.